Hello everybody, this is Lewis, also known as Two Fluent. Today we're going to be talking about everything wolves. Today we're going to be talking about two different wolves deck. My Mono Earth Geomancer wolves deck and my Water wolves deck. The later will be featured in one of Druid's videos for fastest deck. I personally think it's a little bit on the aggro side, but we will see if it's fast enough to take the crown. First, let's take a look at Two Fluent's aggro wolves deck. This is Mono Earth. Although I do splash an aqueduct for a reason, but none of my minions, magic, auras, artifacts are anything to do with water. The avatar is Geomancer. Reason why I wanted to run Geomancer here is I believe with the Mono Earth sites, it's a way to ramp up mana early game so I could keep drawing my spell cards. I run one aura, Crusade. I think Crusade is a fantastic card overall. I am kind of biased. I do love everything True at Parish art. However, in this build, it makes sense. Crusade allows you to place your wolves across the board on your opponent's side while giving them a +1 power buff. Screaming Skull is on here for a couple of reasons. Number one is for flavor because, hey, it's a beast skull, which will look pretty cool on a wolf. But also, it makes sense if your opponent is running another swarm type or minion heavy deck. You could take your wolves that you power up and kind of clear the board with them. In this wolf deck, I do run 23 gray wolves. I think there's room to trim some fat and make it a 22 wolf deck. I'm just not sure which other card I want to put in. Every good Wolves deck should have a 3 copy of Tragedy, War Reward, and a 3 copy of Shield Maiden. I think they're a must at this time in the game. We're limited by only alpha and beta cards, and I think these are two ways that you can protect your wolves, and they're also Earth cards, and they fit well in the Mono Earth build. Overpower, I've tried it in a few runs, and it's pretty fun. With Geomancer, you're able to put out a Foot Soldier token or two early on, and you can kind of trick by having those Foot Soldier tokens seem not very menacing until you power them up a +2, and you get in for an extra couple of chip damage. They're also good early on while your wolves are maybe just numbering 2 or 3 and are quite, still small in size. It's a way to kind of get in there for 4 to 5 damage early on. Minecraft Madness would be the one card that I put a third copy of. After running this deck a few times, it is just the way to be tricky with wolves in the Mono Earth. In a wolf deck that splashes other colors, there'll be ways to maneuver your wolves around. But in the Mono Earth, Minecraft Madness is the best way to position your wolves out of harm's way for as long as possible, build up the wolf army, and be able to traverse across the board and smack your opponent right in the face. Gigantism is a must in almost any deck that runs Earth, but especially, again, when you're having lonely foot soldiers sprinkled throughout, seemingly menacing, and then you power them up a +6, and it smacks for a 7. They're also a way for when you have several wolves and they're attacking, your opponent maybe is able to block the first couple of them, but then they can only take on so many wolves. And when you have a wolf that won't be defended, you put on Gigantism, and you just get that much more damage in. Earthquake is probably the best Earth card, period. I think it it has dual purpose in this deck. I mean, the removal that Earthquake has is great. Even wolves fear Earthquake, um, because unless we have a Kingdom of Agatha out, they do die to Earthquake. But Earthquake is good in the sense that you can remove big threats that your opponent may have, but it's actually a way for you to move around. Your opponent's avatar is a couple of squares, a little bit out of reach. We're playing a cat and mouse game, so to speak, or in this case, a wolf and avatar hunting. And you're trying to get your opponent's avatar closer. You throw down an earthquake, you shuffle around some sites, and now they're within reach, and you can go in for the kill. For my sites, we're running Holy Ground. It's a good staple for Earth. Humble Village, we're running 2 of here, mainly for filler, but also Foot Soldier token on turn 1 sounds good. Pillar of Zeros is probably the best Earth site. Has great healing abilities. Rift Valley is also it's another great card. It's also a good card that could help you position the board in your favor. Rustic Village, again for filler, for Earth Threshold, and for the Foot Soldier token. Secret Tunnel will run really well with the following site. It allows you to kind of traverse and maneuver your wolves a little better on the board. And here's Kingdom of Agatha. If I don't have it in my opening hand, I usually try to pitch everything I can to get that much closer to be able to pull it. It's great for your wolves. It helps against your opponent's earthquakes, and also helps to kind of maneuver with Secret Tunnel around the board a little better. Simple Village, again, for the other reason we run the other villages. I have 2 of that. And Aqueducts is another one that you could play while you're waiting maybe for a Kingdom of Agatha. It allows your wolves to build up on top of them and not necessarily be troubled too much by earthquakes. They're still a little susceptible to drown, but there's less things that drown, I believe, being ran in the current meta than there is with Bury and Earthquake. So that rounds up my 20 sites. Let's see a few scenarios, a few tips and tricks of what you can do while you're playing the game. In this scenario, we are a few rounds in. I'm playing an avatar of Fire deck. And in this case, early on, you may have produced a few wolves. And this is probably like the optimal situation for the Minecraft Madness card. You can have your wolves over here, seemingly far away from your opponent's sites and your opponent's avatar. You play down a Minecraft Madness, and now these guys, as a trio, can be brought over and either smack your opponent's land card or right at the face, dealing 9 damage there. It's a good way to kind of move through. Another way to move around the board, so to speak, without necessarily moving your wolves around the board, is with Earthquake. In this scenario, you can Earthquake here, getting rid of one of your opponent's minions, and you can, in essence, then move around the board state, bring in your opponent's avatar, especially if you have them low in health, and then be able to go in and swing in for the kill. A wolf deck doesn't have to be overly complicated. It just has to follow a few guidelines. Protect your wolves early on. You have shield maidens for that. If you get more than one shield maiden out, it's quite deadly. They buff each other and they help your wolves survive. The next thing your wolf decks need is a way to move around the board. You can do that with this mono earth deck in Minecraft of Madness, as well as Earthquake. Survivability of the pack and movability of the pack is what a wolves deck is all about. Now let's move on to my water wolves deck. This wolf deck is not as fast as the mono earth. It's meant to have slightly more survivability for the pack and slightly more control over the board state. Let's say your opponent has this Pit Vipers that is threatening to kill off one of the wolves and thus making the wolf pack weaker. We can answer that with a couple of cards. We have the Shield Maidens, meaning even though your opponent's card has lethal, Shield Maidens allows my wolves to take 1 less damage. So either defense or attack by Pit Vipers against the Great Wolves will have no effect. Another way you could deal with the Pit Viper or something like it, such as a Grim Reaper, is just to simply polymorph the card into a frog. Another way that you can get kind of past the Pit Vipers is by running Dodge Roll. Dodge Roll has saved the Wolfpack from many a Grim Reaper, where the Grim Reaper may kind of come in, or in this case, Pit Vipers, and they're attacking the Grey Wolf. You can simply move past them and get out of harm's way, so to speak, and then they've kind of exhausted the Grim Reaper attack, or in this case, the Pit Vipers, and then you can sacrifice kind of a lesser needed card, such as either the Warrior Ward or Shield Maiden or the like. Mother Nature is a must-have. Of course, she's unique, so you can only run one of. But in my opening hand, if I have nothing but wolves or um, wolves and some other stuff, I'll usually pitch it so I can get that much closer to a Mother Nature. It's definitely a way to be able to run or be able to summon more wolves. Queen of Midlands is another way to be able to get more wolves out quicker. She will allow you to get more cards drawn. Sorcerer is another great card for being able to pick up more cards from its ability. So usually after turn 5 or 6, at a minimum with Sorcerer, I can grab 2 cards. You would be surprised how often the uniques in the deck kind of see play. Again, if you don't grab a Queen or a Mother Nature in your opening hand, definitely mulligan and get that much closer to see at least one of them. I've had both of them out in many a games, but only having one of the two ladies out is definitely terrifying for your opponent. You can bring on a second and third wolf out each turn. Self same is great. There's 2 of them in the deck, and I usually save them for either to copy a big threat your opponent has, but it's a great way to have a Mother Nature clone or a Queen Laminlang and being able to see 3 or 4 wolves in one turn. In summary, Wolf deck are really fun to play. They're relatively simple to pilot. You have just 2 main objectives, which is survivability of the pack, and then moving across the board and moving the wolf pack closer to your opponent's avatar for the final kill. And I would say they are just shy of being able to be a true meta competitive deck. I have played against Death Speaker, Enchantress, and Avatar Earth. I have been able to defeat all 3, but not too consistently. However, in playing locally and in a more casual setting, they seem to be slightly overpowered for casual play. They usually win against every kind of non-meta deck that I've come across. Both of these decks you can find under Curiosa.io. Just search for 2Fluent, find my profile page, and you'll be able to see my decks. They're both there. The 2Fluent's Wolf deck is the original. It's the one that has the water in it, and the aggro Wolves deck will be the one that runs Mono Earth with Geomancer. If you have any questions, hit me up on Discord. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to not only help grow my channel, but to grow the sorcery community altogether. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video.